Hello, Internet, and welcome to another installment of Reporter's Year in Review podcast series. I am the technology editor, Ryan Black, and with me is...
I am the views editor, Kevin Zampieron.
Incoming editor-in-chief, Rozie Yeghiazarian.
And I'm the outgoing editor-in-chief, Mandi Moon.
Thank you all for joining me. So, to kind of talk about what we're going to be talking about today is kind of weird and unique things to RIT, especially the RIT community throughout the year. And a lot of the things I noticed a reoccurring theme with a lot of the articles and events we covered was that you typically think of RIT as a very introverted community where its student body's fairly introverted. I think that'd be fair to say.
Yeah, there's that whole stereotype of the RIT student who doesn't leave his dorm room and stays on his computer.
It does.
Playing League of Legends, if that's still a thing.
Till 4 a.m.
How do you know how I spend my weekends, Mandy?
The best part is when you don't suspect it and then your friend mentions that they play all these games and you're like, whoa, you're one of them.
Well, I bring that up because there's a lot of stuff this year is kind of focused on building bridges or kind of just fostering a community in some sense at RIT. And one of the first articles that kind of brought that up was your Art on College Campus article, Rosie, kind of just talking about giving a communal feel to RIT, just how the art does that.
Oh, absolutely. From campus quads to restroom stalls.
The restroom stalls ones are my favorite. There's the one in the library of the Tyrannosaurus riding a unicycle in the girls' restroom on the third floor. That one's amazing.
I like the one that spoils it Snape kills Voldemort.
Or every time you notice that in Crossroads they clean up all the graffiti and all the stall art, someone says something like, we'll be back. Or,
you can beat us down. Fall down 7 times, stand up.
Exactly.
On the 4th floor of booth in the men's room, there was a tapestry of dicks. It was it was impressive because there were artists. It was booth. But
yeah, so the booth ones can be really good. There was one time when, this will be the last anecdote, I promise. There was one year when one of the stalls at booth was just a tapestry of fandom. So it was Castiel from Supernatural and Doctor Who and all these great stuff. And it was beautiful. But anyway.
I think the best part about it, and something I allude to in the article, is that a lot of the pieces and on the restroom stalls are very much just unabridged, anonymous vocalizations of the feelings and the things that we're thinking that no one really is going to tell you when you're walking around saying and talking to people. But, you're sitting on a toilet, scribbling these things on the walls. You can't get less shameless.
I was going to say, it's stuff that people won't say, but at the same time, it makes it feel like people live here, people are actually on this campus.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very genuine. And that kind of is a lot of the street art and that sort of expression and the public art that happens. I mean, I don't know if you guys recall, but last spring, finals week, there was the installation of the mannequin strewn on the ground with binders, and we're all feeling it. No one's saying it, but we're all feeling it, and we couldn't have agreed more with the pieces. It was great, and it was sort of cathartic in its own way.
Have there been any public exhibits would be the best word that you guys have noticed throughout the year? Because I know we wrote this article back in October.
I'm trying to remember. It's so hard when half the campus is a desolate wasteland for half the year.
Yeah, you don't leave your building a lot.
You don't go outside.
Classic
except for
Rochester.
A minimal amount of time.
It's true.
So nobody's gonna. Well, there was a snowman at some point, but I can't remember what it was.
Oh, the Lord of the Rings Eye. I think that happened again. I think we do that pretty
April
consistently.
Fools. I know
yes,
one
that's
year
true.
they turned the Infinity statue into the Tower of Sauron. So,
yeah.
Mount Doom.
This is less an art exhibit, but I think a creative expression of some sort. But I remember during the windstorm during March, there were some inventive students who were windsurfing.
Oh, yes.
Didn't someone break their arm doing that or something? I know there was an injury resulting in that.
But of course.
I feel that's part of the culture of RIT to injure yourself doing something completely ridiculous and unique, jumping off a bridge during Humans vs. Zombies.
I remember coming into RIT, I was talking to someone who was currently attending, and I didn't know what to prepare in terms of weather because I'm from LA. And just the first thing I said is do I need an umbrella? And she said, if you want to go sailing, yes.
Yeah.
It's it couldn't be more true.
Using an umbrella on this campus is impossible for the same reason it's impossible to wear a dress, is because the velocity of winds. Yeah, I know, Kevin. You must understand that problem so well.
But. In terms of new art, I did notice that, I know I mentioned in the piece there's a gopher and I forgot the other one.
Pineapple?
Go for the pineapple that popped up around Imagine RIT. But recently I've noticed a little dinosaur popping up around campus.
Really?
So I think that's interesting to see and see how far that progresses.
Tell us more about this dinosaur.
Oh, I don't know. It's just a little dinosaur.
What kind of dinosaur is it? Ooh, knowledge gap. We uncovered one.
Someone skip biology.
It's not a carnivore.
Brontosaurus.
I think that's what it might be, actually.
Probably. Anyway.
Intelligent facts with report.
To kind of like go back to I know I mentioned before like how like obviously like we like to think of RIT as somewhat introverted despite like all the things we just mentioned. But you also wrote an article about kind of like the VR lab on campus and kind of like how like that's increasingly an avenue of artistic expression on campus. You talk about maybe some of the student projects which kind of embody that?
Absolutely. I actually met someone from the Magic Center, and they talked about different projects that are coming out of that, different projects that are emerging from that. And there are forms of artistic expression in terms of, there's a professor who tried to do a collaboration between dancers from, I believe, Nazareth College. And it was a theatrical piece that was complemented by a VR component. So you'd be watching that, and then you'd also be enjoying this sort of VR experience that annotates the piece that you're watching, which I think is incredible. And really, annotation is, I think, that middle ground where we can take VR and sort of essentially inducing like an augmented reality experience. I got to actually try out the Vive, which was really cool. And we've got labs and resources here for students to use and be able to explore these opportunities.
I believe that's going to be a big focus of the new Magic Center they're building, the one where they make good use of, since they got rid of all the nice trees, but it's a good use of space.
They definitely need more space to do that because what they have right now is a small classroom that they've been using.
Yeah, it's hard to be on like the edge of this technology when you don't have the facility, so I appreciate that they're sort of...
And it's interesting, like we talk a lot about virtual reality in terms of like media and games, but I know that I'm in the business program and they talk about it too for use in business contexts, like training people for specific things and, like virtual reality. And I know that astronauts have probably been doing something like that we wouldn't maybe think of traditional virtual reality, but like simulations and that kind of thing.
I've heard of doctors using it as like for a practice tool. So I can imagine like...
So the fact that we have access to that kind of technology and we can apply it to like kind of what RIT is all about, right? Like being really interdisciplinary with it. Like it doesn't just have to be media and games. It can have so many different applications. So I think that virtual technology is really interesting.
It's good that you bring up the interdisciplinary aspect of it because I know like I mentioned like how like a lot of like the community building this year has been about building bridges and more specifically building bridges between the various colleges. Like I recently did an article, Don't Mind the Gap, actually should be released around when this podcast is. Go pick up an issue of our May magazine. But basically talking about how a lot of like kind of like new majors at RIT are about kind of like bridging the arts and sciences and kind of taking advantage of like, oh, we have a film school, we have a college of imaging arts or college of, we have an imaging science program. So like why not we take classes from each and like create a program out of it? Or why don't we take elements of history and like computer science and make a program out of that? And it seemed like a very unique to RIT thing, like what a lot of people are doing. Each of you have noticed that? I don't know.
Well, actually, there's something really cool that the new media design and development majors do is they partner for a final project and they like make a thing. And I know last year their focus was like virtual reality museum exhibits or something, but they kind of do that partnership. But that's something that Dr. Munson actually did a lot of when he was at University of Michigan. I talked to him for I think it was the March issue. I interviewed him for a feature piece, and he talked about kind of doing these cross-functional major programs to really like help with kind of, because in real life that's what you do is you work with people in other fields, and I think that that's something that is hard for everyone to acclimate with, but the more experience we get with that in college the better. And I think that RIT does that better than some, but not as good as it could.
It's funny you bring that up because like what happens in the real world, I actually talked to someone at Thought at Work, which was a design conference that was like run actually. Rosie, Kevin, you guys were a part of it last fall. And like they talked about how like in the real world, like you don't work in these pigeonholes. You work with people from other disciplines. You understand like how like their world works, and like when you understand their considerations, like that's just like makes you a better professional. You guys talk about maybe Thought at Work and being that interdisciplinary endeavor.
Yeah, if you want to
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think what's fantastic and very interesting about Thought at Work is you're kind of getting an insight in that and just the actual creation of the conference process. You know, you've got students who are working on this from scratch. Every year we're looking for new speakers and, you know, what do the students want right now? We need to find out. And that's interdisciplinary in its own right. We don't want to just cater to industrial designers. We want to cater to graphic designers. We want to cater to other colleges outside of Booth and really trying to get to know our student body and be able to cater to what their interests are, finding speakers in that regard, and then going from there, actually coordinating the event takes a lot of work. And it's great to have the opportunity to work with with a diverse set of students who are still interested in kind of creating this one process, this one conference.
And I think, do you want to go, Kevin?
Yeah, and I think, Rosie, your involvement is especially like a testament to that. 'Cause you're not from inside a booth, and it's a conference essentially. Like, well, I guess it started as something specifically for designers, and as a designer, of course, I'll be going to that. But it is interesting to see like what the perspective of Thought at Work is from outside of that framework. So. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. As an engineer, I walked in and I said, "Oh, yeah, I don't really know any of you, but I want to get to know you." And it was great. It was a welcoming environment, and they're very good at harboring that.
And I think that in terms of, again, bringing that back to what's unique to RIT is those kind of student organizations, like even like we Reporter are entirely student run. Like we don't really have any help other than maybe a little bit of budgetary wise from the administration and the day-to-day running of our magazine. Like we do it all ourselves. Nobody is holding our hand, and that's true for Thought at Work and for so many other organizations on campus. And I think that gives us like really a valuable experience that I haven't heard anyone else in any other college that I know of doesn't get that kind of experience. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, and I think in an environment like that, it's older students kind of instructing younger students.
Yeah,
and I think that's a really great dynamic to have. And I think it's like maintaining quality by like maintaining a culture. And I think once you have that, then it's really easy to do. I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You learn by practice, you learn by immersion. Immersion is really a lot of what RIT is about. You get to have these immersive experiences. You get to work in these interdisciplinary groups, and it's all about what is it you're interested in. You find that and you try it.
And what Kevin said about the older students teaching the younger students, like that's such a valuable experience for the older students as well. Like I learned so much with working with everyone at Reporter, like both coming in and then like as I kind of like worked my way up to editor-in-chief, like I feel like I learned more the year I was editor-in-chief than I even did like the other years before, just from like working with everybody and getting to know everybody and like just finding opportunities to like really help younger people just get acclimated and to do what they can do.
Well put. The last thing I wanted to mention was kind of like the immersive experiences you guys mentioned before. And like how like I noticed how like we had quite a few hackathons and game jams kind of throughout the year, including Wick Hacks, Brick Hacks, Hero Jam, kind of just like encouraging people from all disciplines. Like I know like Wick Hacks, they wanted to bring in like MIS students from like Saunders. Like that's something they mentioned they want to do in future years. And Hero Jam, which was like one of the game jams, mentioned like, oh, we want to bring in not just game design students. Like so it seems like this is something very much on everyone's mind, kind of like building those bridges, and also kind of just like building those bridges by having them all work together and do something, like actually create something, not just like work in the classroom to just like, you know, like learn
in
it.
a bubble. Like
Exactly.
I'm in a cross-disciplinary interactive music video class, and that's been a trip. Like, I mean, everyone else on my team we're all from different majors, so it's like I could just, you know, our creative processes are like completely like separate, but it's like what is like the overlap there, and how do we like work with that, and
How do you complement each other?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, how do we create a functional like experience out of this? And like I have no like idea of like what anyone else is doing really, like because our levels of like expertise are like so completely different. But it's really interesting to see us like try to create like an effort together.
I gotta ask, what is this class? Because I feel like every day at RIT, I find out there's another quirky class that RIT offers.
we have this quirky class.
Underwater basket weaving.
But yeah, it's just I think it's just called interactive music video or music video production. I'm not sure exactly. It's in CIS, but we have it's between Golisano and CIS. Originally, it was mostly like photo students and then computer science students. But my team is like we have a computer science person, motion picture sciences. We have animation. And we have ad photo, and then we have graphic design, who is me. So imagine like a group of people like
That's
that
awesome.
trying to make a music video. So
That's something I kind of feel like like I said, there's more opportunities for RIT to do that better. Like, especially since, like I said, I'm in the Saunders College of Business, and I feel like there are so many colleges we could partner with, like in anything, and just make a really cool project out of it. But I feel like Saunders is very isolated from the rest of the school, and I feel like integrating, like, they kind of try and do it through the entrepreneurship programs, maybe, where you like create a business plan and you need to be able to do all of these things. But even that, I feel like, tends to be solely business students or like solely creatives who are interested in starting like industrial design projects or graphic design projects. But I feel like the integration of those two schools is like a really big opportunity that RIT is missing out on.
Outside of just RIT's structure, I think it's great to see also just students who go into organizations like we kind of mentioned, like with Thought at Work. It's not a class, but it's an initiative that students have put together on their own. Like Reporter, it's all student driven. I know I did a piece about the theme park enthusiasts, and you've got students in that who are not just engineers. You do have engineers, but you also have graphic designers, peoples, and a variety of backgrounds, because they can all they all have the same interest, and they all know that they can bring something to the work that they're doing, and it's very much self-driven. And these sorts of projects that get showcased at Imagine, which is a great opportunity to see these sort of collaborative endeavors. And I believe the ones you were talking about, Mandi, also get showcased at Imagine.
The new media design projects? Yeah, they did last year for sure.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to see that and see what RIT offers in that regard.
Yeah, Imagine is like the epitome of the uniqueness of RIT, all spread out across this campus with all of these people who get to come watch. It's a big fair. It's like a big science fair. So interesting.
What she's saying is you should come to Reporter's booth at Imagine.
Yes. We'll be in the SAU in front of Nathan's.
So grab your Nathans and grab your
May
knowledge.
issue and art and photo issue.
Well, I want to thank you all again for joining me for another podcast topic.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Fun.
So, Mandy, could you plug our social media?
Oh
real
yeah.
quick?
So if you have any other interesting things you noticed about RIT, or have anything to say about what you disagree with what we said, please tweet at us. We're at Reporter Mag. We're also on Instagram, same handle, and you can find us on Facebook. We're Reporter Magazine.
And be sure to check out one of the other podcast topics that we are releasing
Soon. Sometime.
soon, probably around the same
Sometime.
time you're listening to this. More good stuff here at Ear Holes.
Ryan out.
Yep.
What she said.